popular lectures that I've seen at the university. And if the visitor had a good experience here, then they went out and spoke favorably about the University of Cincinnati. And I was careful with the first few people to invite people like Leo Leone and Milton Glaser, people who then, for the subsequent visitors, they could say, look, we have this position that has been vacated by Massimo Vignelli and Milton Glaser and Leo Leone. I think we've got just about everybody we want. Most of the people on that list that I mentioned earlier. And it really became one of our signature elements in the program and served us very well for 20, 25 years or so, right? Okay. Spice. Where have I heard that term before? It seems like that's going to be my legacy. That's the thing that people remember, the students remember. The students gave us a goldfish once every years ago. Each of the faculty a goldfish. The seniors, graduating seniors, gave each of us a goldfish, and they named mine Spicy. Does anybody knows what that's part of the language that I coined and a term that I appropriated in order to talk about legibility and harmony in design. To explain how the designer should choose and put together in the right quantities, the right relationships, the different ingredients. And just like if you put too much pepper in a salad, it's not edible. But if you have a fine entree, it's made up of different quantities of different components, and some of those things are a little spicier than others, and some you have to have a larger quantity in order to taste that, and so forth. You have to find the right quantities. And if it's really a successful, great piece of cuisine, you're probably not able to tell exactly what ingredients go in. You think, oh God, what are the flavors? And so you have to ask the chef, and they won't tell you because it's a matter of putting together the right quantities. And at the same time, the chef isn't likely to throw in something because it's in the refrigerator or because they like that if it doesn't fit in that context. It's a matter of putting together the right things, the right quantities that all contribute to make something bigger, something more. And that's what we should do as designers, and that's what students, what I've tried to explain with students. You don't just put things in arbitrarily. Everything should have a role. It's like that poet again. Choosing a word. No matter how much he or she loves this word, you're not going to throw it into this poem if it doesn't make sense. Every ingredient in design, as far as I'm concerned, should be selected and carefully measured relative to the other components. So it all comes together as a total, something greater. It's Gestalt, huh? Something greater than the individual parts thereof. So that relates to legibility and harmony, and it's a little bit like one of the analogies that I use is a kind of mob psychology notion, where I've told students that in a design, everything should be like a family member rather than a piece of a mob. If you have a mob, you can eliminate any number of people and it doesn't make much difference. The mob mentality is still there. But in a family, there's a grandson, and parents, and grandparents, and uncles, and aunts, and they're all equally important, and they all make a family. They're independent, but they're dependent also. And we should be able to do that as a designer. So if if a color or a line or shape or something is in there that doesn't make sense, it shouldn't be there. There's a big difference. Backtrack a little bit. There's a confusion, I think, sometimes of complexity relative to busyness, to activity. If something is very busy, very active, then there's assumption that it's complex. Usually it isn't, it's just visual anarchy. But it can be complex and look complex at the same time if it's made up of carefully selected, considered components. Big difference between complexity and chaos, and there's an awful lot of chaos in design in every field of design. A lot of anarchy. We're down to universality? Is that right? Okay. Every issue can be viewed through a design lens. It's all about form and function, and maybe common sense. This was just laying up here. I don't know. Can you believe this? There's this worldwide debate, conversation, discussion, jokes that's been going on for forever, as far as I can tell. You know, every comic at some point, every interviewer at some point, every conversation at some point brings up this topic, and it's never been resolved. I'm going to give you the definitive answer because it's a design problem. I'm a designer. And it has to do with guys not putting toilet seat down after you know what. Joe, you.
I've never been there.
It's a stupid debate because I seem to be the only person in the world. I've never heard anybody acknowledge this before. I seem to be the only person in the world who has realized that in every home I've gone into, in every bathroom in every home that I've gone into, the toilet is made up of a few parts. It has the toilet bowl and the seat, and then there's this thing up here. You know, and this has a form and a function. This is a cover. In terms of aesthetics, in terms of form, it means that if the cover is down, then you're not looking at that bowl and maybe dirty water in there. Aesthetically, I'd rather look at this than whatever's in there. And functionally, it prevents you from dropping your comb or your brush in the water. And so, isn't it obvious what everybody needs to do? You're not being not unmanly if you put down the cover as well. Everybody, woman and man, it's just as easy to lift and to lower one piece of plastic or two pieces of plastic. That proves that it's all about design. Last word is process. I've mentioned process earlier, I think, and I've certainly talked about it a lot in education and with students. And the poorer programs, the kind of vest pocket programs, tend to emphasize products, the solutions, squeaky clean portfolio pieces. And of course it's nice to end up with some kind of result, but we've tried to emphasize process. And in terms of process, you know, there's an assumption by many innocents that if given a design problem, what you do is you invent a solution. If a light bulb goes up and you invent a solution, then you just go ahead and produce it. Well, if a musician is going to compose something, is that the way they operate? They think about it and invent it and then just go ahead and play it?